Welcome to the Bridgehammer Podcast, where we strike at the heart of global ideas, sometimes with a gentle tap, and other times, well, with a sledgehammer. Today, let's take a moment to talk about Europe, the cradle of democracy, philosophy, and let's not forget bureaucracy. A continent that gave us both the Renaissance as well as the Brexit. But what if I told you that while Europe is busy hosting introspective discussions about declining voter turnout and geopolitical irrelevance, there's another democracy, vibrant, noisy, chaotic, even that's stealing the show? Yes, I am talking about India, the world's largest democracy, a rising economic powerhouse, and a nation so optimistic it believes everything can be solved with a little bit more of code and a few more festivals. Today we ask, what can Europe, good old wise Europe, learn from India? Politically, economically, and perhaps most importantly, emotionally. Because let's be honest, Europe could use a little pick me up. So let's dive in. Political lessons. Democracy that actually believes in itself. Let's begin with politics, the noble art of convincing people that everything will be alright if they just vote for you. Europe likes to pride itself on having perfected democracy. But here's the irony. In many European nations, democracy now feels like a formality, an event held every few years that half of the population attends and the other half complains about afterwards. Take India, 67% voter turnout in national elections. In some states, over 80%. And no, there's no free beer at the polling stations. People actually believe that their vote matters. Imagine that. In Europe, we often hear that the voter apathy is a sign of a major democracy. People trust the system so much they don't need to feel to vote. How optimistic. Or perhaps a little bit too comfortable? India shows that democracy doesn't have to be a sleepy bureaucratic affair. It can be loud, messy, and vibrant. Elections in India are festivals, colorful, noisy, and taken seriously because politics is seen as a vehicle for social mobility. For Europe, here's the first lesson. Re-energize democracy. Make politics aspirational again, not just managerial. Less about managing decline, more about imagining progress. Because when democracy feels like a choice between two shades of gray, it's no wonder people stay at home. India offers bold colors, sometimes too bold, but better too much passion than none at all. So, what about the economic lessons? Growth with confidence. Let's talk about economics, Europe's former pride and current existential crisis. Europe often seems trapped between nostalgia for past prosperity and fear of future competition. Productivity stagnation, demographic decline, and the constant fear that the next big thing in tech will come from Silicon Valley or Shenzhen. Meanwhile, in India, the mood is decidedly different. They are busy building the world's fastest growing major economy, projected to become the third largest globally by 2030. How? By believing that growth is not a dirty word. India has embraced digital revolutions with gusto. UPI, India's digital payment system, processed over 2 trillion US dollars in transactions last year, more than US, UK, Germany, and France combined. And Europe? We are still debating whether cash should be phased out or not. But here's the serious point. India combines economic ambition with confidence. They believe the future belongs to them, that technology is an opportunity, not a threat, that infrastructure investment pays off, not just adds to deficits. Europe could use a little bit of this sort of swagger. Growth need not come at the expense of values. India's green energy investments, for example, show that sustainability and ambition are not mutually exclusive. So here's lesson two. Europe needs a growth narrative, not just about regulating big tech, but building it. not just about meeting climate target, but being leading in green innovation. Optimism is about growth rather than guilt over it. After all, you can't inspire people by telling them the best days are behind them. So, what about emotional lessons? Optimism, enthusiasm, and charismatic leadership. This is maybe the most subtle yet powerful lesson India offers: emotional confidence. While Europe engages in existential debates about its place in the world, India simply assumes it has one, and a leading one at that. Strategic autonomy isn't just a policy, it's a mindset. Consider India's Foreign Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, calm, confident, and unapologetically articulate. He presents a country that doesn't just participate in global conversations, it shapes them. Europe has many competent leaders, but few that project charisma with clarity. India shows that leadership with vision matters, not just managing crisis, but the offering coherent stories about the future. And the public, they buy into it. There's a national optimism, a belief that democracy, education, and technology will secure India's future. Europe must rediscover that emotional narrative, a belief that its best days are not a chapter in a history book, but a part of the future still being written. Optimism, as it turns out, is a competitive advantage. So, what can Europe learn from India? Politically, that democracy thrives when it's vibrant, messy, and deeply connected to the aspiration of its people. Economically, that ambition and growth aren't dirty words, they are necessities. And emotionally, that optimism is not naive, it's powerful. India shows that being a democracy today isn't just about surviving in a complex world. It's about leading, and doing so with a smile, a festival, and maybe a space mission or two. Perhaps it's time Europe believed in itself again. Not by becoming India, of course, but by learning from it, because sometimes looking east might just be the best way to rediscover what made the West great in the first place. This is the Bridgehammer Podcast. Let's keep striking the bridge between ideas and impact until the next time. Stay curious, stay confident, and perhaps stay a little bit optimistic. Please subscribe, comment, share, and like the channel. See you next time. Stay tuned.